Good afternoon, everyone. Live from Silicon Valley, California. This is Success Sadhana. My name is JM, and I welcome you all to a program today. We'll discuss the topic, Don't Put the Cart Before the Horse, and learn secrets to getting our priorities in order. With a host, Vaish, a veteran Bhakti yogi, author, and former monk. We have close to 20 members on Zoom and 20 members on Facebook. I have Shweka helping me out in managing social media today. Good afternoon, Vaish. Welcome to another episode of Success Sadhana.
Thank you so much, JM. Great to see you. We made it back. I'm happy for that. And thanks everyone for joining today. This is an ongoing series. And of course, anything ongoing in this world, we're not sure how long it will go on. So we take every opportunity as a moment of good fortune in our lives. Just the fact that we're here together, having this human experience in the world. And the more we can learn about the process of spiritual advancement and ordering our lives in such a way that we can realize our higher purposes, then the more successful we'll be. So that's the purpose of this hour we spend every week, spiritual fitness. So today we're going to talk about another idiom about not putting the cart before the horse. It can slip off your tongue, and at least it slips off mine oftentimes. Don't put the cart before the horse, as most idioms do. That's why they're kind of not even noticed much, because they've been used or overused. However, when we actually stop and look at them, and especially this one, it calls for us to reorder something. And that's something that we can do. We can use our intelligence to see what's most important and to attend to that before other things. But one of the main themes for today is along the spiritual line of seeing that everything manifests from a subtle level and then it becomes grossified in our lives because of the way that we're handling our inner life. And we can amend that. Part of spiritual practice really is becoming aware of what my intentions are and what my priorities are. What am I thinking about? Because that's going to manifest in our lives eventually, one way or another. I had some experiences recently where I was introspecting after a few incidents, and I was noticing that, well, maybe my intention wasn't completely refined in that case, and therefore the result came out in a way that I didn't expect. And we can look back and see, what is it that's happening, that's manifesting in our lives, and how do we trace it out? By going to the source. It's us and what we're holding in our hearts as our intention. So that's the horse. That's what's drawing. And if I try to attend to the outer portion of my life and arrange the details after the fact, after my attention has been misaligned somehow, or I'm not even aware of what it is, then I won't be successful. It's impossible. Just like, well, theoretically impossible to put the cart before the horse, although JM seemed to have come up with a picture of a cart before a horse. Seems a bit ludicrous. So let's take a moment just to introspect, because it's so powerful to take time to look inside and just notice that we're alive. So if you would, sit up a little straighter than you were just a second ago and get comfortable, and then close your eyes so you can not see any objects that might call to you. And then bring your awareness to your breath and breathe naturally, but with great appreciation, which will naturally open up your lungs a little more. Appreciation for the fact that you can breathe and there's some oxygen available still. And if your mind goes elsewhere or back to your to-do list, then just bring it back to your breath and give yourself permission just for now to be present with your life and let go of your life situation. Our life situation is something that's going on by momentum because of our various intentions. So let's look at the horse that's driving everything, and that's our life. And as you're breathing, become aware that you are the one noticing your breathing. That means you're separate from your breath. You're definitely not your lungs. You're not air. You're the observer of the breathing process. And be aware that you're conscious. What is consciousness? You can't combine sand or other elements, water, air, mix them all together in a pot and have consciousness. Consciousness is categorically different from matter, and you're categorically different from your body. So notice it, and then just marvel at your own consciousness and the fact that you can be aware, that you are aware. And you're always aware in some state. Or aware of some state. And as you're noticing your life, you are the life force, the conscious entity who can become aware of him or herself. You can become aware of your body. You can become aware of the world. Wherever you place your attention, you'll start to develop an awareness of that situation. One of the inner workings in our internal environment is that of intention. Ten means to stretch. We have desires. It's the nature of the living condition to desire something. And what am I stretching towards and why? When I tell somebody something, What is my intention? Why am I doing it? I'm going to work. Why? I'm here listening now. Why? What do I intend? What am I stretching for? So although it seems abstract and subtle or subtle, try to become aware of some intention that you have. Do you intend to change something in your life? Do you intend to acquire something? And notice that you can also objectify your intentions. So bring your awareness back to your breath. And then rub your hands together to get some external sensation, and open your eyes and come back into the room. And welcome back. And let's look at a couple of slides so we get the idea of what we're talking about, so we can get a conversation going about putting the horse before the cart and not the cart before the horse. If I want to move towards my intentions, first of all, it's a good idea to see what my intentions are. Go within or go without means we manifest everything that we have starting with our own intentions. So if we're not attending to our own intentions, then what can we expect in life? If we take an approach of everything is coming from, first and foremost, my intentions, and it's forming around those in my life, then I'll have a sense of control and awareness that I'm responsible. So that's what I mean by everything in our lives manifests from the inside out. And that's the horse that's driving everything. What are my desires? What are my intentions? Where am I placing my attention based on my intention? I know I'm saying a lot of 10 words here, but they're there. They're all from the Latin ten, which means to stretch or connect. So just meditate on that for one more moment, and that is, everything in our lives manifests from the inside out. This is the essence of my interpretation of the idiom, don't put the cart before the horse. Don't try to attend to all the external things in life before taking time to attend to your own inner life. I give an example in my own practice that in the morning times, I take the opportunity to do my spiritual practices. Sometimes there are meetings and so forth that I have to attend to, but I make sure that I have some base to the pyramid in my day, that the spiritual practice has, I've taken some time for my inward refinement. And then it's much easier to deal with the rest of the work that I have to do throughout the day. Have you ever had somebody in a meeting or through an email thread say something that offended you personally? Anyone? Come on. Just JM, that's it. Somebody else? Anybody? Have you ever had it happen? I mean, it happens walking around life, right? in one's life. So the difference between having done some inward work and not is that I may become upset and carry it around with me the rest of the day unless I'm prepared. For instance, spiritual practice, I may have a perspective that, oh, I'm just passing through. I'm passing through this life. What's it to me? And who cares anyway? I'm not, again, my admonition, I repeat this again and again, not that we become doormats, but so many things are inconsequential, but the ego blows them out of shape. But if I do my spiritual practice, a little bhakti yoga early in the morning, then as I move about, there's inevitable ways that people might say things to me, write things to me that offend my sensibilities. And the difference is profound between when I've made my spiritual practice, the horse, and when I just try to fix it myself. Don't try to respond to those types of things until you feel completely balanced. So spiritual practice makes you balanced, and the perspective is broad. Okay. Then my next idiom may be, don't beat a dead horse. Okay, so go within or go without. There's a little twist in that means if you don't go within, then you'll have to go without, meaning go without with what you actually want in life. I'm sure you all got that. Okay. Some things matter than others. True or false? Let's see, I'm going to look in the chat box if everyone agrees with that. Some things matter more than others, or is everything the same? Okay, we got a few agreements here. True. Correct. So my question to you then is, do you have a priority list? Yes, Jason has one. Nope, some people don't have it. Well, since I was so bold to ask the question, I better come forward and produce my own. I have a priority list. It's in my file. It's also, it's on my hard drive. I also have one in a hard copy that I look at. I can say that starting from the inside out, and intention has so much to do with prioritizing. If I analyze with my intelligence what's most important, prioritize it, and then I intend to do certain things, I'm a lot better off because, as you've all verified, some things matter more than others. What do we have next, JM? Because I have a sense that, okay, I have several priority lists. I was vulnerable to write down at least this one. It's in 2 slides. I'm going to read you a few priorities that I penned for myself, and I write them in the present tense as if they're already manifest in my life, because this is what I learned many years ago is the way to write goals and priorities and so forth, as if they're here now. So first is, I remember that my stay in my present body can end at any moment. If we come back in the Zoom room, I just want to ask you why you think I put that one at the top. It wasn't always at the top, but it, like in a little horse race, horse is behind and then it moves up in the last stretch and comes out on top. Why do you think I moved that one to the top? Linda, what is your opinion?
Charles has his hand up. Charles, you can go ahead.
Oh, Charles is here. Great. Go ahead, Charles.
Hello. Yeah, I think it helps sets the tone for your, and sorry if it's difficult to hear, but helps set the tone for your priority list. And also, it's just a strong reminder to prioritize that which is most important at any given moment.
Now, if I may, Charles, what tone do you think that is? I mean, what kind of tone does that create? Isn't it a bit macabre just to be thinking about death all the time? Yeah, I'm going to leave it any time. How do you think it helps? What tone is it that is helpful?
Yeah, I think it sets a serious one, but I don't want to use that word. So I'm going to say it more so. It's a tone that it reminds that you should do things that are meaningful, right? I don't want to say like do things that are serious, because not everything needs to be all serious, but to do meaningful things.
Ooh, I like that. Meaningful. Okay. Thank you. Anybody else have any thoughts about it? Maybe there's some in the chat that I'm missing here, JM. I'm a little further back from my screen than usual.
Yeah, Jason says tone of urgency.
Urgency. Okay, let's see what the definition of the word urgency is.
Linda says tomorrow is not promised.
Tomorrow's not promised. Yeah.
And
Urgent means requiring immediate action or attention, done or arranged in response to a pressing or critical situation, earnest and persistent in response to a pressing situation. That's urgent. Okay.
Vlad says on Facebook, because we can potentially die before the Zoom meeting ends.
Yep. Thanks for bringing it closer to home, Vlad.
Jason follows up saying urgent as in don't put off the big things you want to do in life.
Yeah, we've all seen lists supposedly from people who were just about to leave the world. You've all seen these, and generally, I don't know if it's actually the case, but it seems like it. People say, I wish I had done more of this or that. It tends to put things a little more in perspective if I'm just passing through, right? Go ahead, Jam. There was more.
Yeah, Jason says bucket list. R says, I don't know the full name. Thankfully, this priority is ingrained in myself that I never think about it. Roseanne says, a reminder to stay present in the moment. Maya says, helps to focus on activities that can bring eternal benefit.
Okay, good. All right, I'll go through a few more priorities. Should I share them? Is this appropriate? It's okay? All right.
Yep. Yes, of course.
I got a few nods. I'm going to go for it. Second is I conduct my daily spiritual practices strictly, seriously, and sincerely. I came up with these 3 words. My teacher used to use them in various places, and I strung them together in a little necklace. Strict, serious, and sincere. They both have subtle meanings. I wrote about it once. And I try to keep that in mind when I'm doing my practices, to be very present and strict in them. There's a principle called niyamagraha that comes up in one of the ancient books about bhakti that says, don't just go through the motions. When you're practicing spiritually, be very present for it, be serious, be absorbed in it, remember why you're doing it. I'm well read, well versed, and I expand my vocabulary daily. Again, I'm writing in the present tense for intentions that I have so that my mind will be prepared. Louis Pasteur once said, great discoveries come only unto the prepared mind. My correspondence is up to date, compassionate, and helpful. There's a few more on the next slide. I'm just giving an example of how writing priorities might look. My words are truthful, pleasing, and beneficial. I go out of my way to not offend others. Subset of that is I practice saying I forgive you, not directly to people's face, but I don't say everything that comes to my mind. I remember that I can't take back what I say. My word is my bond. It sticks to me, and I have to stick to it. I'll speak English. I'm going to say that again. My word is my bond. It sticks to me, and I have to stick to it. Number 6, I seek the good in others and the lesson in whatever happens in my life. That is, I seek the lesson in whatever happens in my life. I give undivided attention when conversing with others. So these are a few priorities that I wrote down, and I found it very, very helpful just to sit and say, what's my priority as far as working in the world, the way I think, the way I speak, and so forth. And I can say that it had a profound effect on the way I move in my life, knowing that I intentionally wrote that list. So I just wanted to hear from others. did anybody else say that they have a priority list? Or maybe I could hear from you what you think about the idea of writing down a few priorities. Gidget, good to see you. You still on the mute.
Hello, everyone.
Hi,
So,
Gidget.
and I thought, can you hear me?
Yes.
So, the first thing I thought of when I thought about, I believe that as the role that I'm in, I do a to-do list to make sure I do this, and I really do that because I've seen someone said they have a lot of lists. We have a lot of lists, and they're different lists. We all have different priorities. And so because I am one that lives in the moment, and I heard someone say tomorrow isn't promised, a minute from now isn't promised. One of forbid, but we could just we have to, that's why we have to enjoy every minute of our lives. I'm very thankful for this time because I got people, the street construction outside, and they're digging and they're and in order to stay focused, I said, no, I have to separate. So this comes at a good time. But I don't think that one of the words that I dislike is quick. People will come to me and say, can we have a quick meeting? A meeting is a meeting. Can we have a quick chat? A chat is a chat. For them to throw that word quick in front of it, I've stopped people. So I just wanted to add, I don't do anything quickly.
Thanks, Gidget.
Thank you for letting me share.
Yeah, I think bringing it down and examining this principle of how we're passing through here, and there's no guarantee from moment to moment. Although in my mind, when I become jaded, do you know where the word jaded comes from, anybody? It kind of relates. A jade is an old horse that's run too many races. One too many races is a jade. It's an old, worn out workhorse or racehorse that can't run anymore, and because it's done so much work. So that saying is a being jaded. The mind can become jaded and just think everything's the same, the life's boring, and also besides that, I'll probably die someday, but it's millions of years from now. Whereas an awareness that every minute, as Gidget reminded us, is a gift. Every second we have is really a gift. It changes the perspective, doesn't it? Yeah.
Deep has a question.
Okay.
She's trying to understand what is the importance of third point, which is I'm well read, well versed, and I expand my vocabulary daily.
When I wrote that down, it's a habit of mine to try to absorb what I am reading. And I also like to dig a little deeper every time, not take for granted I know what something that I'm reading is actually saying. So I do this quite frequently in many of the classes, or I'll stop and say, what does that word mean? Even if it's a well-known word, because it kind of represents to me the way in which it's easy to move about the world and not ask, what am I actually doing here? And what's actually taking place. And the moment I look something up and go deeply within it, then I become more aware of it.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Deepak.
Yeah. So my question on this is that, like, I know, okay, I'm using it temporarily and I'm not interested in anything, like all these things. So right now I can use that. So I'm done. So is that wrong, or what's the problem in that case? Like, I know, being curious, as you're explaining, you are interested in understanding something. Let's say I'm not. I don't care what is happening till the time everything is going fine, and yeah, I don't care what others are thinking. So what's wrong in that way? Like, why there is a need of increasing the vocabulary or understanding or learning something if I'm just at peace even without that?
I'm sorry to jump in. I see Nickel has his hand up, but one thing I just want to add, we are all uniquely and wonderfully made. So you do you. If that's how you are, that's how you are. It's nothing wrong with being who you are.
It's funny you jumped in because I was just about to quote you because you mentioned
Thank
that
you.
in the first time you commented. Everyone will have different priorities. My point is not these are the priorities you should adopt. I'm just giving an example as a kind of a primer for anybody who'd like to try it, that just create your priorities because it's life changing. Thanks, Gidget. Okay, Nicole.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to share one realization I recently encountered. So I was attending a wedding, and the person who was the groomsman, main groomsman, he was sharing his clothes, and on one of the packet, it was written "death time dress." And we were all shocked, we thought, maybe some mistake or something. And then, the persons told us that, I already have the dress I'm going to wear when I die. And like some folks were shocked, but I was thinking, the person is really wise. He knows, I mean, he's more closer to the reality. So just wanted to share that.
There, very good. Thank you very much for sharing. Subhadra.
How to make something a higher priority than it is. Like, for instance, I could say, my priority is to be healthy, when it's really obvious that my real priority is to eat junk food. So I want that to be my priority, but it's not really. So, how do you strengthen one and get rid of the other?
Yeah, there's a term which most of you know probably very well, cognitive dissonance, when my outside doesn't match my inside. At least that's one case of cognitive dissonance. I may have an intention to be healthy, but then when I'm doing otherwise or doing activities otherwise that won't lead to fulfill that intention, then there's a sense of angst that comes up through this dissonance that happens. So there's a way in which it's first of all important to remember what my priorities are. I recommend sitting with oneself and really getting in touch and saying, what do I really want out of my life? And being honest about it. And then if there's a will, there's a way. And if you decide that, yes, I can move towards the things that I'm interested in acquiring, that is specifically the qualities that are noble and virtuous. And if I decide that I want to refine myself, then there's a path. And once the goal is there and the intention is clear. So the path may start with the tiniest steps, and usually does, because there's an overwhelming resistance to moving towards one's ideals, we may find. Just as writers know, there's a powerful force in the universe called resistance, spelled with a capital R, that every time I sit down before the page, I think of something else to do. Therefore, the practice of refining oneself begins with tiny little starting with what I know is going to be helpful, moving towards it, and doing it in the smallest way, taking the smallest step. And then the saying I like to embrace and pass on is that consistency is more important than quantity. If I'm consistent with something, it acts just as in nature. There's this force, it's the drop of water, but drops of water, drops a day wear the stone away. And if you do it every day, even the tiniest drop of practice towards your intention will be effective. It really will. And that's what's exciting about being a human. Otherwise, there's no use in being a human. It's a kind of a wasted opportunity. It's like you give somebody $1 billion and what'd you do with it? It's like nothing really. I just, I didn't do anything good with it, or I lost it. but we have the human apparatus, which is a great opportunity for us. It's more valuable than any kind of wealth we could attain. And we can use it by starting by refining our intentions. And there's a practice to do that. I'll go into that unless I burn out the clock with my soliloquies. Okay. What else, JM?
There are quite a few on the chat box. Angela says, I need to be my own priority. If I don't take good care of myself, I have not much to offer to others.
You know,
And
there's a saying like that. My friend Matthew, who is a paramedic for 20 years, said, the first thing they taught him in paramedic school is a dead paramedic can't save anybody. So can you finish it?
Sure. And I'm a lot more pleasant to be around when I have my needs taken care. Sorry, may sound selfish, but it is really not. Fast check-in. Every time I get irritable, halt. Am I hungry? Am I angry? Am I lonely? Am I tired? Tired is a big one. As majority of us at Intel tend to push ourselves too hard, it's a very competitive place to be.
Oh, these are so insightful and helpful. Thank you.
And then Nirali says, I feel that I lose control on my mind and speech, and I say something that I regret after. I try to think before saying, but then it doesn't help much as thought appropriate, but it is taken differently.
Aha, join the club. So that's the great affliction of human beings. We may say something, we don't know oftentimes how powerful our speech is. We create our world with our speech. We create our consciousness with our speech. The sound vibration is the most powerful of all forces here. And speech, using syntax, it manifests what's going on inside of us. That's the whole point of this. And that is that we have to do our inner work in order to refine ourselves. Part of that practice actually is controlling the tongue. You know, some of the spiritual practices I'll just mention for a second. One of them is called tapa or tapasya. Really, the word in Sanskrit has something to do with heat. Like, have you ever noticed when you're trying to make a decision between doing the really easy thing and doing a little bit of discipline, there's a little heat? Like in that little gap between when you do it and when you made the decision you should do it, there's a little bit of a push there. That's called tapa. So gentle regulation of the senses helps to develop sattva, or a clarity in one's mental environment through which it's easier not to blurt out harmful words or words that you wish you had taken back. So that's one of the main points about not putting the cart before the horse. It's really difficult unless you do your spiritual practice, a little bit of gentle regulation on a regular basis.
So
Very
what
helpful.
kind of tapa you mean, like gentle regulation? You mean like doing daily puja or remembrance?
Yeah. One of the recommended practices is called swadhyaya, or the study of transphysical, transmental wisdom. You get the right knowledge for inspiration. There are great writings in which lessons that have to do with topics related to, for example, you're not your body. How often do I actually become aware of I'm not my body? And then other regulations we've talked about here before have to do with, for instance, mantra meditation is extremely powerful. So in that process, we're repeating a mantra. It's a spiritual sound vibration, and just taking time to listen to the sound, bathe in the sound. You'll notice that you're naturally improved along the lines of self-control and so forth. That takes a little gentle regulation. Chanting mantra is actually fun. and it's gentle, it's easy, but you have to do the tapasya. There has to be a little heat. I want to go and do something else, but I take my 5 minutes, 2 minutes, 1 minute, something to do that gentle regulation of doing my mantra. And then I enter into another realm where I feel, oh, actually, I'm okay. I don't need anything else. That's a good place to be in.
Thank you.
Thank you for such a good question.
Carla said, thank you for bringing me back to priority list. I immediately went to what is my life goal priority list. But you brought it back to how do I engage with my surrounding in my behavior. And Jesse says, I do this exercise once a year where I write down what my ideal life looks like. I include as many details as I can, including how I want to act towards my friends, family, community, and world. How I want to conduct my life and what I value in life. It sets the tone for my life every year and has been a great method for manifestation.
Nice testament to the efficacy.
Jay Kali says, thank you, and may you all have a good weekend. Thanks, Kali. Gidget says, just like availability is better than ability.
What's better? What are the two things being compared?
Availability is better than ability.
Availability is better than ability.
Yeah.
Okay, who said that?
Gidget.
You had made a comparison. And so when you made that comparison, and I forget what it was right now, I remembered I said, that's just like availability. We'd rather have somebody who is available than more than their ability. Because once yes.
Like Mark Twain once said that there's no difference between somebody who doesn't read books and somebody who can't read books. Like you may have some quality or intention, but unless you bring it forth and act it, then it may not be so valuable. Is that what you mean, Gidget? Something like that?
Yes, it's something like that. That's absolutely right.
Oh, thank you.
It's better to show up and we can see what you did and don't show up. So availability has nothing to do with your ability. We all have abilities that we don't use. And make
nice.
ourselves available.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, I often like to say we vote with our feet also. You show up, you don't have to say much because you're there. It's like, hey, I'm here. I'm ready.
Yeah, I think you were comparing the will and the do, that they want to do it, but they don't do it. So it's like, yeah, the will and the do. We might have the will, but we don't do anything.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And the other point I'm making here is that unless we're clear about what we actually want to do, in other words, what our intention is, and unless we prioritize it for ourselves, then what can we expect? Anything random can happen. Random means, okay, I'm angry. Somebody said hungry, frustrated. And then I'm going to say things. I'm going to do things that are not healthy. You know, I might just pull the curtain rod a little harder because I'm frustrated and break it. And then I'll say, oh, curse the curtain. You know, I just broke it. And then there's a cycle of things that happen. So that cycle can be broken by becoming much more aware of what our intentions are. And then when we're moving about the world, there'll be opportunities again and again to try to come to our standard. And when we fail, it doesn't mean it's over. It just means the next time I'll be more ready for it. That's how we grow. Failure is a pillar to success, but we have to know where we're going. JM, let's look at a couple more slides. Now, this is something I wrote down in my notebook when I was on my walk the other day, and it sort of inspired me to talk about this topic today. And that is that, actually, I'm going to read it to you in the original form that I wrote it, because I always carry my pad and my pen wherever I go. And oftentimes when I'm taking my morning walk, something will come into my head and I just stop wherever I am and I write it down. But this was it from the notebook. If your intention is wrong, and I'm speaking to myself, if your intention is wrong, everything will turn out wrong. If your intention is right, everything will turn out right. Refine and purify your intention. There's consequence, harmony, service. So the point that I had this sort of mini revelation about my own intention in a particular circumstance, noticing that the result wasn't exactly what I had expected. And I traced it back to my own intention when I performed that act, when I said something. And then I thought, it all starts. The horse is what's driving the cart. So it's hard to fix afterwards. But if you take the time to put the horse before the cart, and that's how I refined it in these two sentences from what I wrote in my notebook, is if your intentions are shabby, so too will be the results of your efforts. If your intentions are virtuous, so too will be your outcomes. So that's the horse that's driving us where we want to go. Purify your intention. These are juxtaposed ideas about reward seeking versus selfless service. There are many other ways of looking at purifying the intention, but to keep it simple, there is a way that one might think about. You can go back to the other slide or just come back into the Zoom room just for a second. Reward seeking, like I want something out of this. There's a prospect. For instance, if somebody's intention when they do some service for you is that actually what they wanted something from you, they expect a return. Do you get a different feeling from that? Or what about if somebody did something for you? Has this ever happened? And they had no expectation that you could discern of getting anything in return. It was done purely out of service. Anyone have this experience? Can you notice a difference between the two things? Let's start with the first one. Did anybody ever do something for you and then you realized later that, oh, actually they wanted something from me? Can somebody give me an example? I think of it sometimes when I'm around service organizations, like, for instance, on the airlines. Yes.
I think
Well, I
Angela
always,
Go
oh,
ahead.
I'm sorry, you go ahead. Because I was going to say, people always want something from me. I used to braid hair, and a lot of times they wouldn't even call me until they wanted their hair braided. So I knew when they called, oh, I know what she wants. And I'm no different in a sense because I've done it too, especially in this business. I've changed organizations, but there are still people that I need things from. And when they see me, they know I need something from them.
Yeah, one trick I learned in writing letters, if I'm asking somebody for something in an email, that ask first and give the accolades about the person second. Because if you do it the other way and you say, oh, you're such a nice person, I love you so much, and then you say, by the way, can I have your then the psychology is like, oh, right, they just wanted something. If you want something, say it and then appreciate afterwards. But in any service organization, JM, you were going to say something more.
I thought Angela came on. I don't know if she had anything to share.
Yeah, no, I was going to say some people also do a lot. Not that they want something from you, but they want to look good. So they do a little bit, charity or whatever, and then they really spread the word like, hey, look at me. Look how nice I am. Look how giving I am. It's kind of like a self-promotion, and that you can feel also. So in the past, I had an exercise that, because I tend to be a little bit selfish, so I put myself a task that I had to do 3 good deeds a day. But if anybody would find out about my good deed, it wouldn't count. So I need to do more. And it doesn't have to be huge. It's just like somebody left a cart on the parking lot and I push back. But I'm not gonna go like, hey, you know, and you need to keep quiet just for you and then really feel my soul, you know. But when
Wow.
I do looking for reward in one way or another, it doesn't work, you know, doesn't feel good for my soul.
Angela, thank you so much. You just gave us so much. Well, a couple points I'd like to reflect on from what we just heard from you. One is in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna talks about how to start learning about yourself, your higher self. And one of the ways he talks about it is to start giving to others. So do some selfless service like you're doing, you know, your 3 things a day. Because he said, you'll notice that when you give, you grow. You'll notice it's a principle that it's universal. And another point about being selfish, you said, well, I'm selfish. From the perspective of the bhakti teachings, bhakti yoga, and so forth, everybody's selfish. And if you know who your real self is, then that's not a bad thing. You have to be. It's not that we're nothing. We exist. We have a sense. Ego just means a sense of self. But right now, my sense of self has been diverted into thinking I am my physical body. For instance, I'll give you an example. I might say, I'm an American, therefore everybody else in the world can, you know, as far as I'm concerned, can just drop off the planet and who cares? I mean, this is sort of a consideration of the provincial mind that, you know, if I'm okay, that's everything else is okay. This is called the bodily conception of life. However, when somebody advances spiritually, it's a universal principle that they have compassion for all living beings. It doesn't matter. There's no borders on that because we all come from the same original divine source. And therefore the vision, spiritual vision means I'm seeing actually we're all interconnected. And there's a genuine sense of compassion and feeling for doing good for others that comes from spiritual advancement and realization. It's not something that is artificial. So back to my point, and that is putting the horse before the cart. And that is that attend to spiritual realization and the awareness of who myself is. And then selfishness becomes actually productive and noble and virtuous because myself is something that I'm part of the original self. I emanate from that. And if I water the root of the tree, then all the leaves and branches are automatically watered. Angela, thank you so much. You gave us valuable lessons. Gidget.
Thank you so much. I want to thank Angela also. I'm reading a book, Me and White Supremacy by Layla Syed. And this is a very good book. And one of the things that stuck out with me, it says to develop a consciousness for doing what is right, even if nobody ever thanks you for it. And that stuck out with me because when I volunteer a lot and I'm not looking for anybody to thank me. I used to take care of a blind man. And one of the reasons I was taking care of this blind man is because I wanted him to see that somebody cares. So they wanted to pay me monetarily, but that's not what it's all about sometimes. So I thank you, Angela. You're right. People do things to get fame, fortune, be seen, but it's so good when you can just really do something out of the goodness of your heart.
I like that. It's like part of your, Angela, your spiritual practice to, you know, do these kinds of selfless service without anybody noticing. And Gidget, thanks for bringing that point home because it's one of the main focuses. It's where we can start noticing that I'm metaphysical. I don't get satisfied no matter how much money I get, no matter how much food I have, these types of things. I always want more. But there's a sense of satisfaction in selfless service and doing noble acts and virtuous acts. And if I hone my intention and think, okay, why don't I do that more? Why don't I water the root of the tree more? Then I'm ready for it. That's what a spiritual life is. It means expanding more and more into that. Why do I have to settle for less than full dedication and full satisfaction of the higher self? Let's finish the slides, JM, unless I came to the end and didn't even know it. Put the horse before the cart. That's a good idea. And set your sankalpa. So this is one of the practices that in spiritual circles of sankalpa means set your intention. You can do it. Just like when we started the meditation, we took a moment and said, okay, I get to decide. What do I really want to do? What's my intention? So before acting, before doing anything, take a moment or a second at least and ask, why am I doing this? And is my intention refined? Is it noble? And just by doing that practice, setting the sankalpa, whatever I do becomes so much more, the potency is more, amazingly. I was going to say, that's why I hesitate. I was going to say, it's so much more intentional. That's why we have that word, we turn it into a noun. You have your intention, and then now what you did was intentional. It becomes more obvious. Let's take a few more comments, JM, and then we can end with some mantra meditation.
Sure, yeah, please feel free to unmute yourself and ask questions or drop in chat box.
Did we get everything from the chat?
No, there are quite a few, actually.
Okay, I see from Aro something about compassion, so that it caught my attention.
Yes, hello, you can hear me.
Hey, Aro.
Hello. So I do get it when you say that you have to be compassionate, and we are all one. The whole world is one. But in the real world, being compassionate when you know that the other person is intent on harming you may be counterproductive. And how do you deal with that?
We deal with it methodically, but dispassionately. We talked about this a little bit in one of the sessions we had on forgiveness. It's related to compassion. In fact, we talked about how the two are interrelated. And the two ideas aren't mutually exclusive. In other words, you don't have to become a victim or of abuse unnecessarily and forgive people at the same time, or be compassionate. I'll give you an example. It's just like if somebody transgresses, you may have to deal with it. There may be due diligence that you have to do to make sure that a repeat offender or somebody who's intentionally harming others, including yourself, is dealt with in the real world. They should not be, if it's egregious, they should not be running around free. And I just say, I forgive you. It doesn't even matter. It does matter, because we need a modicum of safety in this world. And also we have to protect ourselves because we need these human bodies. And we also need a sane environment in which to live and work that's not interrupted by people who don't have any boundaries. So we'll have to deal with them on that level. That's the methodical part. The part which is dispassionate means that I look from a higher perspective. Why are they doing it? People are compelled by their own natures. They might not even know what their own nature is. Oftentimes people are victims of their own conditioning. So having an awareness of, here's a soul struggling in the material world and is reaching out in these inordinate and inappropriate ways, we can feel some compassion for them. Having been there myself in this life and in other lives, I've been victimized by my own karma because of my own chain of misdeeds. So in that sense, I can develop some compassion for people, even when there's wrongdoing on their part. Did that help, Aro?
Yes, it did.
Oh, good. Fantastic.
There are a couple of more questions. One is from, I think it was again from Aro. How do we know if our intentions are virtuous or shabby? And Namrata on Facebook had a related one.
Well, let me answer that really quick. Part of it is, virtuous intentions are self-luminous. And we just talked about it because Angela brought up those important points about doing selfless service. And then she commented how good she felt. When you see the sun, it's like, is that the sun? When you do something that's selfless, compassionate, like Angela doing something for somebody and nobody else watching, you feel it yourself. You feel it directly. It's not something you need a certificate for, just like when you're hungry and you eat. Nobody has to come in the window and say, hey, you're getting full now. You know, you've eaten enough. Jam, you had another one you were going to say.
And Namrata had a related question where she said, how do we gain clarity on our intentions? Sometimes I think I know my intention only to find out later that it was something else.
Well, part of it, I mentioned reading high-minded, the wisdom literatures that specifically talk about spiritual qualities. One of them, that I read is the Bhagavad Gita. It has lists of what are the virtuous intentions, and then it even describes the phenomena that Angela and Gidget brought our attention to. Somebody might do charity work, but they're doing it to get fame. So there's awareness. Once we study the science of it, there's an awareness of it. And also we experience it for ourselves when we work in that mode. When we develop our intention, we'll start to see the light ourselves of doing our own virtuous deeds. They're a reward in themselves, nothing else needed. Well, we came to the end, practically. We'll go out with a mantra. So let's do the mantra at the end. This is a part of mantra meditation. We'll just end by sitting up just a little straighter. Close your eyes. And we'll repeat the mantra, Nitai Gauranga. I'll say it 3 times. Please, if you'd like, behind muted mics, you can repeat with me. Nitai Gauranga. Nitai Gauranga. Nitai Gauranga. Thanks, everybody, for joining today. Look forward to seeing you next week. And if you get a moment and you're wondering what to do with it, get a legal pad and a pen or any piece of paper and sit down, close the door, be by yourself and write down your intentions and priorities and keep the list and think about it. And you'll see that it'll begin to direct where you're going and the kinds of, you'll become much more aware of how you're being driven from the inside out. Thanks, JM, for keeping the lights on. And we'll see you all next week.
Haribo.
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 Thank you, everybody.
Haribol.
Haribo. Haribo.
Haribol.